Hello, lovers of the world. This is Sinta speaking. I love journaling and I love listening to music, so I've decided to combine them. Welcome to Music and Monthlies, the series where I summarize what music I listened to in the previous month and set up my journal for the next one. This is a way for me to keep track of all the music I've discovered and a way for me to exercise my skills in analyzing and expressing my opinions on music better. This video, we're going over what I listened to in March and set up my journal for April. I listened to Villain by Drippin. Drippin is a boy group that I only casually keep up with. Their comeback Free Pass last year was an absolute banger of a summer song. I really loved it, and it's the kind of concept that I fall for hook, line, and singer. So this switching concept is a little disappointing to me because it just didn't align with my tastes. Villain is still a pretty strong comeback though. It's sleek, cleanly executed, and has a lot of charisma. As for the rest of the EP, none of the tracks really stood out to me or stuck with me, but I do enjoy the general masculine vibe of the project overall. However, it's just not for me. Then I listened to Beam of Prism by Viviz. The K-pop world was definitely shook with the announcement of G-Friend's disbandment, a loss of which was greatly felt by K-pop listeners everywhere. However, we got the next best thing. 3 of the G-Friend girlies come back stronger than ever in their own group. The title track Bop Bop is objectively a good re-debut song. It's fun and a promising taste for the group's future, but is still reminiscent of G-Friend's last song together, Mago, but with a more youthful vibe. It's a song that showcases the results of being in the industry for as long as Shinbi, Eunha, and Eumji have. Their vocal delivery straddles that line between cute and sophisticated, coy and sultry. I didn't really like Bop Bop initially though. I kind of thought of it as the kids bop version of Mago, but I have grown to see its appeal. I still wouldn't voluntarily listen to it though. The rest of the EP is fine. None of the songs really stood out to me, but it's executed well and has a distinct sound, which is all I really ask for in a K-pop project. G-Friend's past shines through in their songs like Lemonade and especially Mirror, but overall it's obvious that Viviz are doing their best to stand as a new group separate from their past. If I had to choose a favorite track, I would probably choose Tweet Tweet. I am looking forward to seeing what Viviz have in store for us. Then I listened to I Never Die, an album by G-Idol. Can I just say how bowled over I am that G-Idol are coming back at all? I really thought that Cube Entertainment was going to leave them for dead after Soojin left, and leave the girlies to their own solo activities, considering they have other side hustles that are quite successful, but here we are with an album instead. Will miracles ever cease? In this album, we see the Olivia Rodrigo-ification of G-Idol. Tomboy, a pop-punk inspired girl crush concept, is a pleasantly surprising concept for G-Idol to attempt. However, it simultaneously feels like a bold move, but also the most generic song I've ever heard. Soyeon's rap, wow. What a train wreck. It's so bad that it almost feels a little camp. The refrain with the la 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 la's kind of reminds me of Happy Death Day by Extraordinary Heroes, and apparently I wasn't the only one who thought so. So that's validating. But lastly, my favorite thing about the song has to be the outro where they repeat the lyrics, "It's neither man or woman, just me." Wow. Judith Butler is shaking in her boots. As someone who wasn't actively following the group that much prior to Soojin's departure, I cannot really attest to how the group sound and feel in her absence, but as a very, very casual listener, I'd have to say that they did a pretty decent job in making up for her absence. I didn't really feel like something was missing, which is a good thing. The biggest thing about this album that I like is how much it shows that each member of G-Idol have their own distinct production style. Soyeon obviously has the biggest influence on the G-Idol sound, but if you look closely, Minnie and Yuki's production style are pretty different to Soyeon's. If I had to choose the most interesting song of the album, it would probably be Yuki's song Liar, which is where she sounds the best in, obviously, because she produced the song to suit her voice. There are a few interesting songs here and there, but I wasn't really that impressed by it as a whole. I do like the reference to La Tata in their last song, My Bag, but I actually really don't like that song a lot. And then I listened to You by Ha Sung-woon. I actually like Ha Sung-woon, but this is not an enjoyable album for me. It sounds like a collection of K-drama OSTs chucked together, and honestly, it's boring as shit. Sorry, Ha Sung-woon. And then I listened to White Ceiling Black Dots Wandering Around by Paranol. This is the recently released demo of the Breakout album, well, as breakout as an independent shoegaze album could be. This is the demo of Paranol's debut album. Paranol is a South Korean musician that grew in popularity among the hoity-toity indie types when he released his incredible album To See the Next Part of the Dream last year, and no joke, it is one of my favorite albums of all time. Check it out if you're interested in depressing shoegaze. White Ceiling Black Dots Wandering Around is the demo of that album released to celebrate the album's 1-year anniversary. Paranol himself described the demo on Instagram as worse and noisier, which pretty much sums up the entire thing. That is to say, I really like the album a lot and I like listening to it when I'm studying. Then I listened to Ordinary by Stray Kids. Oh wow, I have a lot to say about this EP. Maniac is not their best title track, but it's also not that bad. The discordant motif that runs throughout the verse doesn't start the song off in the most appealing way, I have to admit. However, I find that it is easily redeemable by the chorus. This discordant motif kind of sets up the moment where the chorus pulls back like it's sucking you into this chamber, and every step that they make is an echo that bounces off the walls. It's like a black hole. It's very interesting. And I really like how Felix's voice is the main centerpiece in the chorus. His deep voice gives the song so much body backed up by this really full bass line. And then if I'm being nitpicky, I think the second chorus where Hyunjin is the one delivering the lines with moments where Felix's voice is layered on top isn't as satisfying. Again, I'm being nitpicky, but if it was up to me, I would have just kept it as Felix in both choruses instead of trying to swap it out for different voices. Again, I don't know why, but that's how I feel. Anyway, Maniac is a pretty good title track, and as for the rest of the album, it's fine. Like nearly all my experience with Stray Kids albums, it's a really mixed bag. I think Venom is my favorite song. It sounds like what Sticker by NCT 127 wanted to sound like, but couldn't. To be fair, Stray Kids has been kind of dabbling in this sound for years, so it makes sense that they just were able to pull it off slightly better. Charmer, oh my god, has the most basic beat ever, and the instrumental in the chorus sounds like they use the same sample as Aya by Mamamoo. I don't dislike it because, they use the same sample as Mamamoo, but more so because both songs are giving a lot of like Orientalist vibes that I'm not really a fan of. Not a good look in my opinion. Muddy Waters, I did a crash course in Stray Kids discography, and Muddy Waters is the first time I've heard them delve into a more 90s urban rap influences. It kind of reminded me of like Kendrick Lamar, and it's fair because it's very obvious that Stray Kids are very influenced by Kendrick Lamar. I mean, God's Menu says hello. I probably would like Freeze if it didn't end abruptly. I don't know why it ended the way that it feels like I'm riding my motorcycle off a cliff, and instead of flying through the air, you kind of just plummet to the ground and die. That's the vibe that it gives me. Anyway, again, album is fine, some hits and some misses, and it is what it is. Then I listened to You by nizu. Now, I've actually been waiting for nizu to release this album because I've been meaning to talk about all the pre-release singles, some of which I passionately love, and just never had the excuse to talk about them. Until now! Woo! Chopsticks is technically the title track for this album, and I've done some snooping and it looks like it's pretty well liked among nizu listeners, but I actually fucking hate this song. I really do. I think the first time I listened to it, I was like, wow, nope. Anyway, this album is kind of just a collection of songs that they've released over the past 2 years. Take a Picture, Step and Step, and Poppin' are my favorite songs. They are the right kind of catchy, saccharine sweet pop that really hypes me up. I really love the youthfulness and energy found in these songs because it masks the group's lack of vocal power when their happiness is overwhelming enough. However, the singles are singles for a reason because they are the best songs of the album. The rest are mostly forgettable. I Am is functionally the Kids Bop version of Wannabe by ITZY. Even the chorus uses the same chords, I think. Take a Picture, Step and Step, Poppin' Shakin', Need You, and Twinkle Twinkle are the only songs that I would probably voluntarily listen to. 9 Colors is an honorable mention though. It would pack more of a punch if the girls just had more vocal power behind them. But otherwise, I feel like the album as a body of work is a bit lackluster. And then I listened to YoungLove.com by Stacy. Girls, it's going down. If you're an avid watcher of this channel, probably remember that I reacted to the music video for Run to You last month, I think. And you can see in the video that I didn't really like it. In the first few weeks, I was really like lukewarm on it. And then one day, I just became obsessed with it. And fun fact, I'm actually in the process of learning the choreography and releasing a cover for fun. So hopefully you can watch that at some point. But yeah, I don't really know what happened, but I think something just switched in my brain and I just started loving the song. And it's actually the same thing that happened to me with their debut song So Bad, which is when I was really lukewarm on it, and then one day it kind of became one of my favorite girl group tracks ever. I guess the heart just wants what it wants. The rest of the album is a lot more R&B leaning than I expected. Run to You turned out to be the only upbeat, up-tempo song, and the rest were more on the down low. But the B-sides are very Stacy vibes, you know? My favorite song has to be Same Same. The ad-libs in that song are better than some entire EPs of other groups. Overall, a pretty great album. If I was being nitpicky though, I wish there was another upbeat song in the album to keep Run to You company. But other than that, great album. And then I listened to Pink Friday by Nicki Minaj. If I had to pick a quintessential 2010s album to represent the era, this is probably a strong contender. So much of the singles here had a great impact on my childhood, and for good reason. Excluding all her controversies, I won't hesitate to say that Nicki Minaj is a pretty formidable figure in the history of pop. And this album proves that she has a very strong and vibrant personality that shines through, fueled by her singing talents and rapping prowess. If you're looking for a blast from the past, I think this is a pretty good place to start. I pretty much enjoyed all the singles on their own, but also as a whole, which is like kind of like the best thing that you could ask for when you're listening to an album. And then I listened to The Fame by Lady Gaga. I'm kind of surprised by how little I cared for this album. A fat chunk of the tracks here are singles, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the more popular songs like, Poker Face and Just Dance and all that. But the majority of the B-sides I wasn't really a fan of. It kind of just goes to show you that the hits are hits because they hit. And then I listened to Yellow Punch by Rocket Punch. This was a really fun EP. I love that they've leaned into this synth pop vibe that they've kind of introduced in Ring Ring last year. I think it fits them really well. They have a lot of power and charisma, and they have great chemistry with the musicality of kind of genre influence itself. Some great examples from the EP are Chiquita, In My World, and Louder. Whereas Love More and Red Balloon are kind of on the cutesier side, which I also still quite like. It's a pretty bangin' EP, and although I really like it, I am kind of sad that they don't really give Jury a lot of lines. She's proven time and time again that she's a pretty good vocalist. They just never give her enough time to showcase it. I've seen those covers, Jury. I know you can sing. I think we all know you can sing. And then I listened to The Collective Soul and Unconscious, Chapter 1 by Billy. Yes, Ginga Minga Yo is a bit of a downgrade from Ring X Ring, but I still think it's fine. It has grown on me quite a bit over the past month. The rest of the EP is decently enjoyable, although again, it does have a more commercial sound compared to their debut. I can't help but feel like it was all intentional, that the company had given the girls a debut song that you know is going to be very polarizing with the fans and the general public that has like eagerly awaited for them to debut, and then give them a more palatable song afterwards, so it kind of feels like they've upgraded, so to speak. It's a very interesting tactic, and I guess it kind of worked because they are getting a lot of coverage for this comeback, and honestly, good for them. I really like it. My favorite song from the EP is Moon Palace. And then I listened to INVU by Taeyeon. Taeyeon returns with one of the best singles of the year so far. I really love INVU. The hook is so clever, the choreography is so sophisticated, and it is such a cool sound to hear from Taeyeon. It is a very good comeback, and I really, really enjoy it. The rest of the album is fine. I rated it a 7 out of 10, although that is kind of generous thinking about it now. It's an album with interesting moments, but as a whole can be a bit forgettable, considering how impactful the rest of Taeyeon's discography had been up until this point. It's not a bad thing. I mean, Taeyeon's discography is just so strong and so, good that this in comparison is just not of much of a contender, so to speak. I do wish that they didn't put Weekend in this album. I kind of feel like I felt like it killed the vibe that nearly took half an hour to maintain. Or at least if they were going to add Weekend, they should have at least put it somewhere in the track order that made a bit more sense. Especially because after Weekend is the track Ending Credit, which I not only feel like is one of the strongest songs in the entire album, but is also a really strong way to end the entire thing. So I'm kind of just a bit confused as to the whiplash towards the end. And then I listened to It's Me, It's We by Tempest. Now, here is the brother group to a channel favorite, Everglow. We love to see it. I didn't even know that this group was coming out until my friends told me about them. But I'm really glad that they brought this to my attention because I was a lot more impressed with this EP than I expected. I really like Bad News, the song. It's cute, it's youthful, and a touch mischievous, which is what I always really appreciate in boy groups. I feel like it's a lost art, and I really like these concept of cheeky troublemakers who've arrived and are here to cause chaos. It's very cute, it's very endearing, it's very charming. In general, I think it's a very safe place to start as a young boy group because in my opinion, it kind of allows for a lot of different routes for the group's image to progress from here onwards, you know what I mean? They have a lot of like room to grow up, so to speak, you know. And the whole EP is honestly surprisingly pretty good. It's got great vocals, it has great musicality, and just has a very clear idea of what it wants to be. And I really appreciate that in a K-pop album. So yeah, this is definitely a boy group that I'm kind of looking out for. It depends on how long they can kind of keep up with this cutesy boy group vibes though, because if they ever switch, I'm gonna be very disappointed. You know me, it's just how my personal tastes are. And then I listened to Crash by Charlie XCX. Yas, Queen, Slay, Boots the House Down. I really love Charlie XCX. She's probably one of my favorite artists ever. I listen to all her songs a lot. And so I was really excited to hear this album, especially because she's been teasing it since last year. It definitely has a bit of a mixed reaction, not just from, you know, her fans, but also from me in general. Put it succinctly, I think this was a very decently made album that just happened to be in the unfortunate situation of being, you know, waited for with great anticipation. And I think a lot of that expectations kind of choked the album before it even got a chance to, you know, make a head start, I guess. To be honest, I really did like the album, despite it being not as, you know, adventurous or as experimental as Charlie usually is. And, you know, it is a very more commercial sound than I guess a lot of her fans are expecting from her. But honestly, that doesn't mean that it's a bad album. I still really like it. I still enjoy it a lot. And honestly, I think the album does have a lot of moments of brilliance, but they are quite stretched out too thin for it to exceed the level of its predecessors. And then I listened to Feel My Rhythm by Red Velvet. Yes, bitches, the girls are back. I really love Red Velvet. I really do. And Feel My Rhythm is, I think, a very strong title track, not just for a K-pop song, but for Red Velvet. If you guys want to watch my tier list of Red Velvet title tracks, I can link it up here if you guys want to watch it. If you want to know about how I feel about Feel My Rhythm in conjunction to the rest of their discography. I really love Feel My Rhythm. This contrast of this discordant and chaotic instrumentation with their very ethereal and melodic voices is a very signature Red Velvet thing to do, you know? You can kind of see they've done something similar in the past before, so it really does feel like Red Velvet has kind of come back. The way that they've used the delicate melody of Bach's Air on a G-string as the backbone of the song, while these bombastic sounds crash around the chorus, is such an interesting soundscape. I think in the beginning I was a bit kind of sad that the instrumentation was a bit too overpowering because I wanted to hear the little harmonies and the little like nuanced flourishes that Red Velvet are able to do with their vocals. But I think over time I've kind of appreciated it for the intense experience that it wants to be. It really does feel very cinematic, like what you'd hear in the soundtrack of Bridgerton or like the trailer for a Pride and Prejudice reboot movie, which they did reference in the lyrics, so kudos to them. I think they did a good job of evoking that time period, but also a timelessness. It's very cool. I think I really just like, I'm a simp for the song. And I feel like it's kind of continuing what they kind of started with in Psycho, that was like 2 years ago now. I mean, if you think about Psycho as a quote-unquote velvet song, then I feel like Feel My Rhythm is a quote-unquote red song, because they kind of use the same classical vibes but in kind of different ways with different atmospheres and different moods. So yeah, the rest of the album I also really really like. It feels so satisfying to listen to it and just know that Red Velvet are officially back to save the K-pop industry and show these hoes how it's done. I think there was a part of me that was terrified of Red Velvet being swept under the rug, because SM Entertainment has a habit of doing that. I was just scared of that they would be forget Red Velvet entirely, especially because Red Velvet has their own solo activities. But I was just like really relieved. So I'm just really relieved at this EP. Like, not only is it quality and just everything I've been wanting, it also just exists, which I just really appreciate. Yeah, anyway, enough about Red Velvet. That's kind of like what I listened to in March. If you want to read some of my reviews individually, they are also available in my Rate Your Music account, which I have linked below, along with my social media accounts and ways to support me via Ko-fi or Patreon. If you guys want to hear more of my thoughts and opinions on things, please feel free to subscribe. Also, if you like this video, please like it and comment what you guys think of my opinions, or just drop your own in the comments if you guys want me to review maybe an album or ask my opinions on things that maybe I didn't mention in the summary, or maybe something I can talk about in the future. I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, I know this is a bit of a late video, so thank you guys for your patience. It has been a bit of a crazy week, but hopefully I can get back on track soon. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next week. I hope. Okay, thank you.